If you're watching this, it means that you want to be fluent in a foreign language, or maybe a few foreign languages. So what I want to do is an exercise. So wherever you are, get comfortable, get comfy, relax. Now I want you to take a deep breath in with me. So breathe in, hold it, and then breathe out. And we're going to do that one more time. So breathe in, hold it, and then breathe out. Now what I want you to imagine is whatever your target language may be, or your target languages may be, imagine what your life would look like if you achieved your goal, if you achieved your dream of becoming fluent in these languages. What would your life look like? What would you do? Would you go to the country where it's spoken and have a vacation? Would you go there and live there? Would you have a conversation with native speakers? Would you speak to someone in a deep conversation in the foreign language? What would you do? Think really hard about the goals and the dreams that you have for these languages. If you could be fluent in these languages, would you read the literature in its original language? What would you do? Of course, this is different for every person, so I want you to really think and imagine what your life would look like if you achieved your dream of becoming fluent in the languages. What would you do? Now, after you've done that, I want you to think about what would your life look like if you don't become fluent in the languages, if you don't achieve your goal. What would your life look like? Would it be the same as now? Would it be worse? How would people look at you? What would people think? What would you think about yourself if you didn't make it to your dream? Think about that and feel how it feels if you didn't make it. After you've done that, I want you to think about what it would be like if not only you achieved your dream and became fluent in the languages, but you did it at such a level that exceeded your expectations, and you did far better than you ever imagined, that your level in the languages was so high that you couldn't even imagine it beforehand. If you were that good at the languages, then what would your life look like? How would people respond to you? How would they treat you? What would your friends and family think? What would the native speakers of that language think when you encountered them? Would you have deep conversations with them in the language? Would you talk about philosophy or your deepest desires? What would you do? Would you read literature that had never been translated before? What kind of life would you lead? Would you move to the country? Would you take frequent trips? Really think about in your head and imagine what that would look like if you were able to become so fluent that it exceeded your wildest dreams. Now, if you haven't already, I want you to subscribe to my channel, because you don't have to watch every video that I put out. But I am going to be putting out videos that help you reach your goal of becoming fluent in the languages. And hey, it's free to subscribe. You can unsubscribe with one click of a button, so there's no downside for you. And the upside is you could become fluent and achieve your dream. So subscribe to the channel. Now, when I think of learning a foreign language or foreign languages, there are two puzzle pieces that come to mind immediately. And that is your habits and your method. So if you are good at making habits, this will be very easy, because the important thing is that you study each and every day. And the reason for this is because even if you have the worst method, if you study each and every day, you will make a little bit of progress. Whereas if you don't have the habit of studying each and every day, you'll stop and then you'll go backwards, because you'll begin to forget the knowledge that you had and you won't progress further. even a bad method will progress you further than not studying at all. So if you are the type of person who isn't that good at making new habits in your life, or maybe you haven't done this yet, the best book to get is Atomic Habits by James Clear. You might want to read this book first before you start learning a language, because this is the foundation. The foundation is you need to have the habits of studying each and every day. So get this down. If I can give you some quick tips from this, I would say that you want to incorporate language learning into your life and make it a lifestyle. You can do this in ways, for example, if you have a commute to your workplace, you can listen to instructional audio in the language as you drive to work or take the train, the bus, whatever it may be. And that's a good way to get some study time in. Even if you have a full day, you have a full-time job, you have a family. I actually know people who have large families, very difficult work, and they get their studying in mostly by listening to material on their commutes to and from work, and then getting other time snatches of it when they can. Another technique that I like to use is you listen to audio when you're doing something else. Like for me, when I go for a walk outside or I exercise, I oftentimes listen to an audiobook in the foreign language, or maybe I listen to an asamil or some other instructional audio that I can use to improve my foreign language. So let's talk about how much time you need to do this. I think at the bare minimum, at the beginning at least, you want to have at least 15 minutes a day for each language that you're learning. So 15 minutes, this isn't a lot of time, but I think it's enough time to keep pushing the ball forward. So again, you want to use your habits to make a 15-minute study session for each language that you're studying. And this might be difficult if you have a lot going on in your life, but you want to do time management. You want to figure out some way to get those 15 minutes in. When you get more advanced, you'll need more time. You'll probably need 30 minutes a day for the intermediate level, and maybe when you get to a point where it's actually enjoyable just to spend time in the language, either by reading real novels or watching television programs, Netflix, YouTube, whatever, movies, whatever it may be, then you might want to spend 45 minutes or even an hour a day. But that should be more enjoyable and feel not as much like studying, because you're actually getting real use of the language. So lastly, I'm going to talk about my method that I use for some of the languages. I'm going to be talking more about this in depth in future videos, and I have talked about this in my other videos on the channel. So if you're interested, watch my other videos and get a sense of what that's about. But for example, I'll explain. When I wanted to learn German, what I did was I went through the 3 versions of Asamil German. If you don't know what Asamil is a French company that has these great language manuals for a ton of languages. So they have a language manual for German, but they've been around since I think the 1940s. So they've made different versions of the manual and they've updated it over time. So what I did was I started with the version, I think that was published in the 1990s. I went through that. I didn't try to memorize it 100%. I just tried to understand it to a good degree, but kept moving on to keep it fresh. And then I went to the version of Asamil, I think was made in 2006. And I went through that Asamil. Again, I didn't try to memorize it 100%. I just tried to get more and more familiar with the material, by looking at from different angles, from different books that were written. And then lastly, I went through the Assamil that was made in the 1940s or 50s. And there was audio for these courses as well, so I was listening to the audio. I was doing some shadowing, which is where you listen to the audio or read the text while speaking it. And yeah, after I did these 3 Assamils, I thought I would do a 4th manual, which was the Linguaphone German. Linguaphone is another great company that has tons of courses. But as I was going through the Linguaphone and starting with the basics, I was so sick of going through basic manuals that I decided I had enough, and I jumped right into real German literature. And I started reading the book Märchenmond, which is, I believe, Fairy Tale Moon in English. I think that's what they call it. And yeah, I started reading that, and I started mining the book for words that I could study on flashcards in Anki. And again, I'm going to get more into depth about how I do this in future videos, but I just want to give you a taste of what a method looks like. Similarly, for Arabic, I started taking the self-study Arabic class at the Language Academy with Professor Arguez. So although he doesn't teach us Arabic, we just go over the material that we're supposed to self-study for the week. And I find that's a good way to keep me motivated, to keep making progress. But what we did for that was we went through the 1975 Arabic Assamil, and then we went through the 2006 Arabic Assamil. And then after that, now we're going through children's versions of famous Arabic tales or stories, like Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, Sinbad, etc., etc. And again, I'm mining these stories for words in Arabic and using mnemonics to remember them, as well as spaced repetition systems like Anki to remember them. So I have used other methods besides Assamil, besides going through beginner text, but I just want to give those as an example of how you can do it. You want to get more and more used to the language. Don't worry about getting 100% correct before moving on. Even if you understand 70%, just move on to the next section, because likely in the future, when you get further ahead and look back on those earlier sections, they'll be a lot more clear to you. You'll be able to understand them a lot better. So that's it for this video. If you want to learn more about how I memorize vocabulary fast and for good, you can look at some of my other videos where I cover visual mnemonics and how I use those in order to learn vocabulary so that I don't forget it. So check out my videos on that. If you haven't already, subscribe, because I'm going to be coming out with more videos to help you achieve your dream of becoming fluent in a foreign language. Okay, thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.